Sponsored by Bangtak, Sustainable Business Development in Harmony with the Environment and Society.
Myanmar is expected to quickly move from having an agricultural-based economy towards a more industrialized economy. This will increase demand for infrastructure as well as new buildings, hotels, schools, shopping centers, as well as industrial buildings.
Right, the opportunities in Myanmar, therefore, are opening up for any business regarding construction industry. Recently, Meinhardt, Thailand, an engineering consultancy, has just opened up its newest office in the country as a strong demand for engineering design services is emerging.
We had an opportunity to have talk with Meinhardt director John Anderson about this move and why Myanmar is a good investment destination.
Would you please briefly tell me about Meinhardt Group and what your company does?
Okay, sure. Yeah, so Meinhardt, we're a consulting engineering company, which means we design buildings. So we do civil, structural, electrical, mechanical design of buildings, plus a few other specialty things like lighting design. If you've ever been to the Terminal 21 shopping centre, the specialist lighting you see in that shopping centre was designed by Meinhardt. If you see the Met condominium on Saturn Road, the beautiful facade on that building was actually designed by our engineers, so facade engineering. Plus this hotel that we're in today, the St. Regis Hotel, we did all the engineering systems in this building, plus the structural engineering design as well, plus many, many projects that you see around Thailand. But the group started in 1955 in Australia, originally out of Melbourne. We'd been in Thailand for 23 years. We now have 31 offices, generally in the Asia Pacific area, although we do have an office in London as well. But we're quite large in Asia. I have a very large office in Bangkok with close to 300 people working in it, mostly Thai engineers. We have about 280 Thai staff, and we have a few foreigners as well, but a lot of fantastic Thai engineers.
And do you have offices in other countries in ASEAN?
Yes, we have offices in the other ASEAN countries. We're basically in all of the other ASEAN countries, except for Cambodia is an ASEAN country, Laos is an ASEAN country. We're not represented in those two countries, although we do projects from our Bangkok office in those two countries. And then the newest office in the ASEAN area, of course, is in Myanmar. So we're just starting out there, very small, very humble beginnings, but we have a very small presence on the ground in Myanmar and hope to grow that quite significantly next year as new opportunities emerge.
Would you tell me why your company chose Myanmar to establish your new office?
Sure. Well, because our company designs office buildings and hotels and factories, there in that particular country there's a great demand for those sort of buildings. So for those who have been to Yangon recently, number one, you'll find it very hard to get on a plane because the flights are all full. But the other thing is when you get there, it's very hard to find a hotel room, so there's a shortage of hotel rooms. And then if you're like us looking for an office on the ground, you'll really struggle to find any office space. So that's a great opportunity for us because we design that sort of stuff. Similarly for our industrial clients, there's obviously a large workforce there, and in Thailand you've got fairly full employment, and we're now starting to see Thai companies that want to offshore part of their manufacturing, and they can see the opportunities perhaps in Myanmar. So great opportunities for us. To be fair, Myanmar is still a rich, wealthy country. It's got a lot of resources. It used to be, if you look back in its history 40 years ago, it was the rising, the shining light in the ASEAN area. In fact, so much so that the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, I think, said back in the 60s that he wanted Singapore to be like Yangon. He said that back in about 1960. So you look at Singapore where it is today. If you go to Yangon, unfortunately, time has stopped for Yangon. But I think they'll re-emerge as a rising tiger in the future. But they need a lot of help, and it's an excellent opportunity for Thai companies like our own here, and many others here to be the springboard into Myanmar. So because we have services here that we can export, and we have been exporting to the region, we can help them with their projects, and that's what we're doing.
What about challenges?
Challenges. Well, I mean, I think I mentioned a couple there. Obviously, the cost of doing business there is actually quite high. So people think of Burma, and you probably think, oh, it must be a very cheap place. Unfortunately not. It's quite the opposite right now. Because there is so much interest in that country, the cost of actually doing business there is actually quite high. So if you're like us and trying to set up an office there, it's quite hard to find that space and it's expensive. And similarly, also, because our company's success is in a frontier emerging market like that, we look to employ overseas educated or overseas experienced talent. So we're looking for Myanmar people, Myanmar nationals who have lived and worked overseas, maybe got a tertiary, like a master's degree qualification from overseas. Now, there's big demand for those people. So they're not low-cost people. They're quite the opposite. So to employ a few people like that, it's quite expensive. So they've been working in Singapore, getting expatriate salaries in Singapore, and okay, they're happy to come back home, but they're not going to go back and work for what the people back in Yangon may be getting. So that is one of the challenges. The cost of employing talented, experienced workforce is expensive. So.
And the country has just opened up the country, and foreign direct investment law has not been established yet. Do you have any problem with that? Okay,
because we're coming in under we're a services company, so we're not a investor per se. We're not like a big engineering construction company. So the investment law hasn't really affected us so much. I mean, we're 100% foreign owned. There's no issue with that. When it comes to the investment law, there have been some clarifications now. I'm not an expert on this. It'd be best to talk to a lawyer, but I believe some of the unknowns have been sorted out now. So just very, very recently, like in the last few weeks, the investment law has come out and it's been clarified, and apparently it is more favourable now than it was to foreign investment. Before it was very a little bit one-sided, and it was probably going to be not great for foreign investors, but I think it's been reviewed.
Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of foreign companies are now flocking to Myanmar right now.
That's right. Yes.
And some of them are also in the same industry as yours.
Sure.
So
yeah.
how do you deal with your competitors?
Okay, well, I mean, wherever you go, you're going to find competition. But I mean, some of the people in our industry are complementary to what we do. So, for example, we would like to see more engineering contractors, like the Rittars and the Italian Thai Trevi and Italian Thai, Sino Thai, some of the big construction companies. We would like to see them go to Myanmar because they're actually complementary to what we do. They're not necessarily competitors. Like, we design buildings, we don't build buildings. Those people would tender for our designs, but it's essential that they are there on the ground. Another good example of great Thai company is Cefco. So they do piling, contracting, and a lot of the buildings you see in Bangkok, they did all the piling works. Now, they're the sort of companies that need to be there because for us to do high-rise buildings like this one here, which is about 40 plus stories, you need specialist contractors there. Right now on the ground there aren't too many people, so we need these complementary people. We don't do architecture, we do engineering. So every project needs an architect, so they're complementary to what we do. So we want to see those people in there because they're a part of they're our partners in any project.
According to ASEAN Framework Agreement on Services, or AFAS, the ASEAN Mutual Recognition Arrangement, or MRAs, will facilitate the flow of professional services including dentistry, medicine, nursing, accountancy services, surveying, and of course engineering and architecture.
And as Meinhardt's construction project starts and continue in Myanmar, a large number of skilled engineers are expected to flow into this thriving country. And how does Meinhardt prepare its personnel? After the short break, we'll come up and find the answer.